Boom boom boom. La la la. Boom boom boom. La la la.
Did you know that veterans from World War I only got a $60 bonus for their work in the war? A group called the American Legion started a political movement to get a bigger bonus for our vets. In 1924, Calvin Coolidge, who was president at the time, vetoed the bill for the additional bonus, but was overruled by Congress. Congress ended up giving the veterans $1 for every day they served on U.S. soil and $1.25 for every day overseas. Of course, the government couldn't afford to pay yet, and so they issued a certificate of service to be redeemed in 20 years for the cash if the amount was over $50. Little did they know that this promise would come to embarrass the U.S. government, and especially the next president, Herbert Hoover.
When the Great Depression hit our nation, many people were obviously unemployed. Some of these people were the veterans that hold the certificates of service that can be their ticket to better support their families. Because of this, in May of 1932, many unemployed veterans began traveling across the country to go to Washington, D.C. to ask for their bonus to come earlier. By mid-June, there was an estimated amount of 20,000 veterans and family members that had gone to Washington, and their leader was a man named Walter Waters. This crowd of people soon became known as the Bonus Army by the public, but called themselves the Bonus Expeditionary Force. Because there were so many, they camped out in parks and military bases around the city, and these camps were called Hoovervilles. The largest Hooverville, which had about 10,000 veterans and their families, was established across the river from the Capitol building in a place called Anacostia Flats. On June 17th, the long-awaited day had come, where the Senate was to vote on the Patman bonus bill that would ultimately give them their bonus money if it were passed. By nighttime, 10,000 of these bonus army soldiers gathered in front of the Capitol building to hear of the result. Walter Waters had finally come out of the building to announce the denial of the bill by the Senate, which lost 62 to 18 votes. Everybody in the area was silent, until Mr. Waters said, "Sing America and go back to your billets," which led to the veterans singing as a march began in front of the Capitol until Congress was adjourned. Because of this sad rejection, the federal and district governments tried to help veterans return to their homes by paying for the journey back, but most of them declined the offer, and stayed, rallied, and marched throughout the month of July. On July 28th, an attorney general ordered the Washington police to clear the veterans off of all government property. In doing so, these police fought against resistance from the marchers and fired off shots, killing 2 of them. Hearing about what happened, Hoover ordered the federal government to force the veterans out of Washington and placed the Chief of Staff, Douglas MacArthur, in command. MacArthur's assistants were Dwight D. Eisenhower and George Patton. Upon receiving the power, MacArthur lined his troops up on Pennsylvania Avenue. Veterans thought that these troops were there in their honor and began cheering.
But that quickly died down when the troops began to charge at the veterans and started throwing tear gas at them. That night, the veterans and their families had already ran across the Anacostia River to take refuge, which was where General MacArthur was ordered to stop by President Hoover. But he ignored that command and began to invade and set fire to this large Hooverville with many civilians still in the area. When the morning came, the 10,000 veterans in the Hooverville ran away because of this attack. Ultimately, as a result, General MacArthur and President Hoover's reputations were badly damaged when the news was spread, although MacArthur was the one at fault. In the following month, fewer number of bonus expeditionary force men went on to pressure Congress for their bonus money. On May of 1933, 1,000 men marched in Washington once again. The new president, FDR, was the next to face this problem. He was also opposed to the idea of giving the bonus checks to the veterans. However, he still showed his care for the jobless veterans by giving out an executive order allowing 25,000 of them to work in the CCC. Because of this alternative solution, the veterans slowly began to withdraw from Washington and the matter was resolved. In the end of the two marches, a total of 4 veterans were killed and 50 more were injured, along with some Washington police officers.
Boom boom boom, la la la, 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 boom boom boom, la la la.